Okay, so the basic tools. All right, up here you got your selection tool. I don't use it much, but it is handy when you need to do a selection and make sure you don't move something. Okay, but typically, yeah, you just select, you have the move tool or the rotate tool selected, and you just grab something, and it's you don't bother shift over to the selection tool. But once in a while, when you go, okay, I need to select this and I don't want to accidentally move it, which is, if you're using a tablet, it can be fairly easy to accidentally move something. Um, yeah, it's handy then. You got your lasso select. Rarely use that in objects mode. That is good in component mode. So if I switch over here to component mode, um, it's, let's see. Okay, so it's good for doing little selections like that, or yeah, the few times I use this guy, it's for when I have a tricky selection. I'll pop, let's say, to the side view and go, okay, let's get, just his mustache like that. Okay, so I mean, it does have its uses. Now, if you double click on the tools, you do get extra options. Okay, so which is one of the points of this video. So you got soft select. So all the tools have this soft select now, and so you can then, I can go out the um, from that selection. Okay, and then as you see, it softly moves it. All right, I don't typically work that way, but once in a while I'll come across a task where I'm going, yeah, I really just need to get this edge up a little bit. I want that whole cheek up, and I can grab maybe an edge there and do the soft select. And I'm going to hold down B on the keyboard, and that allows me to change the radius. And so then I can go sort of like that, and let's see, scroll down here to our soft select, and maybe change the fall off. All right, there's, yeah, oops. As I said, I don't particularly use this much, but it does have its moments when it's useful. Okay, so there we go. Get that way down there, and yeah. So anyhow, yeah. So I'd probably have to take it down a little bit further to get something useful out of that. But yeah, so that's what the soft select does, and so you have volume, surface, global. So the volume it's as if it's going from a complete sphere. Okay, the surface is just on the surface. But play around with that. See if you like that, if it's part of your working methodology, and it makes sense for you. Okay, there's also a reflection, which does it on the other side. So as I take down this, let's grab that B button again, see if that works. There we go. Yeah, so there you see I have both sides selected with the reflection. And so you just decide which axis you're going to do it on, and then you can manipulate things the way you want them. So pretty straightforward. So that's what those guys are. The other important things in here is you have your object, local, normal, and world, and a few other things that I don't play with too much. I keep it fairly stock in my workflow, but it's nice to know about some of these extra things. Okay, so let's scroll up here to the top. Let's grab a vert. If I switch it to normal, okay, that allows me to move the avert along the surface normal. Okay, so that's 90 degrees from the triangle, and so that is incredibly useful at times to get something very precise. I don't really move things in the U and V space. It's doable, but I typically don't use that one. Um, if you're in objects mode and you have it set to normal, you'll get an error message. Okay, so it does not like that. So you really need to have it set to object, and I think, let's see, let's hit the reset. Yeah, the reset is world. Okay, and so if I rotate this sword here, it's going back over to here, and I click it to object for the move axis, you see how it's now going to move that sword based on that rotation. Okay, so local, that comes more into play when things are above, parented in a hierarchy. That can come into play. But basically you do stuff either in object or world. If I toss a quick light into the scene, oops, display. Okay, so here I have a spotlight. The spotlight is very handy to work that with object, because I can get it where I want and then back it up, bring it closer, okay, and move it in that object space. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. We're going to come back to that guy in a moment. All right, let's put that back to 0. So that's those guys. Okay, so the set to edge, all right, so you may want to move avert along an edge so that, well, so that you can reposition it in a way that, yeah, just more precisely. Okay, so, all right. So if I grab this vert, okay, like that, and then I'll do set to edge, I select the edge here, and then it allows me to move on that axis. All right, so you see how that can be super duper helpful in something like this. So maybe I want to slide this guy along that way. I do set to edge, and then it allows me to line that up, and I just slide it along like that. So you have set to point. I have no idea how to work that one. I've only used the set to edge a few times. And you have set to face. So that allows you to align something to a face and move very, very precisely. The discrete move, never use this, okay? It's possible. I mean, if you do feel, okay, hey, I need to move this guy 1 unit out, then that can work, okay? But most of this stuff, it's not part of my workflow. The soft mods are helpful. The object, world, and normal, I do use this fairly frequently. All right. If we pop over to rotation, okay, the rotation you got once again world, local. Usually do everything in local. Occasionally I have to switch to world. Gimbal is gimbal and gimbal lock are a massive problem when we get into rigging, and it's a matter of how they calculate the rotations. Okay, so for some reason I can never screw it up when I want to screw it up, but so I rarely use that. Okay, and I always rotate one axis at a time. Alrighty. Ta-da. So you got your soft select there for when you're rotating, bits of stuff. So if I grab, let's say, these guys, reflections on, I can rotate that bit of the shoulder, okay, Now, the other key thing is if I want to rotate that from someplace different, okay, what I can do is I can hold down D on the keyboard, move where the rotation manipulator is, and then I can rotate it from that new position. As soon as I change my selection, that goes away. It defaults back to um, the center of your selection. Okay, so that's that. Now, I do like using the discrete rotate. Used to be snap rotate. As you see, right now I'm set to 45 on that, and that can be really useful. So I usually have that set to either 45 or 15. Just trying to get, so okay, now it's heard that I've typed that 15. And so now I can just click through, okay, and go to 90 if I want. Yeah, so that I find very useful, especially when it comes to rigging. All right, scale. Okay, so the scale, you have your soft mod tools. Yeah, this, if I do rotate this guy, and then switch to the scale tool, you see the scale defaults to object space. So if you switch it to world, then you can get some funky scalings. All right, so it can be once in a while you'll have to mess with that, but it's rare. It is very, very rare. Okay, here we have the universal tool, and what this allows you to do is just do rotate from different corners of the bounding box. Okay, the box, this all-encompassing box is the bounding box on this object, and so by selecting the different corners or the different icons, you can move it accordingly. Okay, so maybe you like this tool. It's just I'd probably, if I was you, I'd use this fairly frequently, you know, because I have my established ways of working. I don't do this one that much. Okay, so it has a few options here. Now the different options for the tools will change when you're over different menus. So when we get to the graph editor for animation, these tools will have different settings in here when you're over the graph editor. Okay, and gotta remember not to save this file. Okay, so we have a soft select. Okay, the soft select, it's like the soft selection, but it gives you this this little handle. Okay, if I click nowhere, you see it's giving me a little S under there. And you have your various controls down with this icon. And you know, I use it occasionally. If I hold down B, I can probably change the radius. Intro students seem to use this fairly frequently. They accidentally stumble into it, but then it gets problematic because as you click, it keeps making these guys. And so then all of a sudden you lose control of your model. Where to get rid of those is the Windows Hypergraph Hierarchy. And as you see here, I have a bunch of these soft mods that if I just delete them out, the model goes back to the way it was. All right, to lock those changes in, if you had something you liked, let's go back into there. So if, let's say I really wanted that, what I would do is change my selection to the selection tool, select the geometry, and do an edit, delete by type, history. And now it's as if I modeled it like that. And zoom back. And that's, yeah. Okay. Down here we have the manipulator tool. Not really many options in the manipulator tool. The manipulator tool allows me to grab the center of interest for my light, and so the light's always going to point at that center of interest. You have this little handle here that you've seen a few times now. I haven't really talked about it much. And so this will click you through different settings, like this is the radius of the light setting, so you can interactively manipulate things. And so this is the light's regions, and so the light now exists from here to there. It gets a little weird at times. This is one of those special powers of the spotlight. So I can actually get it so there's light here, no light there, light there. I know, a little freaky. But anyhow, so that's what that guy does, and that's something that you can explore. That also works great with the camera. So the camera will focus on things. The manipulator tool is also good when I grab the whole object here, and when I toss on a cylindrical map, let's say, like this, it shows me up the cylindrical mapping icon here. Okay, if I lose selection, okay, if I just have the selection like that, okay, and I open up the polycylindrical map here, that tool doesn't exist. Okay, I can manipulate stuff here. I have to go over and click it, and then I get this back for whatever I've selected over here. So that's a two-step process. It took me a long time to figure that out when I was starting Maya. So here I have the tool selected. I don't have the item, the polycylinder projection selected over here. As soon as I click it here, then that pops up. So that's a really handy thing to know about. We also have this little blank space here. Now what this is for is very handy. Oh heck, all right. I'm just going to grab the bottom and extrude out a bit. So if I hit the extrude tool and bring out, it should have popped it up there. Okay, well, Maya's making a fool of me yet again. All right, if I go to the, there we go. So if I go to the Sculpt Surfaces tool, Artisan, it pops it up there. All right, so this is a variable of the last tool set. Okay, the last tool that you used. So when I'm drawing in edges on the model like that, I hit Enter to stop drawing. Okay, then I want to draw again. I hit Y on the keyboard. It selects it, and then I can draw again. Okay, so that's a very handy thing to know about. All right, well, that should get you started with the basic tools. Their hotkeys are Q for the selection, W, E, R, T for the manipulator tool, and Y for the variable down here. Okay, so those are your basic tool sets. Play around with them, figure out what works for you. That's the important thing, and hope that helps. Have fun.